Put on a suit, drink water, don't drink and drive.
Game over!
Take it light. Okay.
Now you're more fluent.
He's got three!
Up, Bears.
So this is really good right here. Absolutely. Let's do it.
Good evening, Leaf fans, hockey fans. How we doing? It is Wednesday, August 21st. Back here as always on Leafs Unfiltered podcast with my co-host Caroline. How we doing tonight?
Good, thank you, Josh. Good as always.
Love it. Love it. So, as you know, Caroline, we have an action-packed show coming up. Very excited about it. Kind of am excited about every show, but I think we've got some pretty good news to kind of go over. Not so much Leaf news, but I think we'll take what we can get in the middle of August here with training camp still a month out. Obviously, topics we're going to cover. We definitely want to hit on the Canadiens acquiring Patrik Laine, what sort of implications that move has for the team. And obviously, we wouldn't be doing our podcast justice if we weren't going to give it that. What does it mean for the Maple Leafs kind of spin and thoughts? So we're going to break that one down. Also want to talk about the Edmonton Oilers, the offer sheets that were handed out to two of their RFAs. We now have confirmation that they chose not to match on either player. So Caroline and I will give our thoughts on that and what that kind of, how that lines up for Edmonton moving forward. And then we're obviously get some more Leaf specific topics. We want to kind of look at, obviously the big free agents that the Maple Leafs have upcoming, Mitch Marner, John Tavares. It's been talked about a lot in the media circles, podcasts. Who between Marner and Tavares will the Leafs re-sign? If any, will they re-sign both? So we'll break that one down as well. Think we're good for topics, right? That kind of basically sums up the agenda.
I think so. I think we have a pretty action-packed episode here, so I'm excited to break it down with you.
Beautiful. Okay, so let's not waste any more time. Just for the audience tuning in, as we always like to do, we invite you, if you do want to jump on here, give us your thoughts on anything we're discussing or even bring in your own topic, got a question, just hit us up in the comments. Let us know you want to join. And as soon as we see the comment come through, which we always will keep an eye out for it, we can send you a link and bring you on. I see we've got our boy Kyle. He's obviously ready to go here, joined in. Kyle, we're doing good. Hope you are as well. So without further ado, let's get into the biggest topic at hand. And I will definitely turn it over to you, Caroline, because we haven't actually talked about each of our thoughts on this trade. So Montreal Canadiens acquiring Patrik Laine. All they have to give up is defenseman Jordan Harris, a decent young defenseman, but obviously not a big name. And they also got Columbus to add in a second-round draft pick. So this is obviously being hailed, no surprise, by Habs fans as the greatest trade, the biggest fleecing in the history of sports, right? And I'm not paraphrasing. I am not paraphrasing. Where are you at on the trade? What was your initial reaction?
Well, he's expensive, like if there is it was interesting to me that Montreal didn't try to get Columbus to retain any of that massive hit, massive salary that he carries. I think, what is it again? It's like 7.5?
8.7. 8.7 times 2.
So
you were right there. Yep.
Yeah. I think that it's interesting for Montreal to pick on to choose a player like Laine. He obviously needs a little bit of rejuvenation from his career. He's had a tough couple of years with Columbus, from some injuries to some mental health issues. He's obviously, his head's not been in the game in Columbus. And as I understood it, Montreal was on his no trade list. So it's, it wasn't a market that he'd initially thought would be for him, but clearly something in this offseason kind of jump-started this movement for him to go to Montreal. And he's interested.
Or sorry to interrupt, or it was
problem.
the only team that actually made an offer that Columbus was open to. So it could be a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, but yeah, fair enough.
For sure. I think that he has a very interesting season ahead of him. I think there's a lot of potential for him in Montreal. Yep. It's a lineup that we know to be up and coming, although they seem to keep on being up and coming and never really coming to fruition.
Yep.
He could be their leading goal scorer. We could be looking at a 40 to 50 goal season for him if he, is able to connect with the players on his lines, on the team. And it could really turn around his career. So I'm happy for him personally, that he's found a home that wants him, and he clearly wants to be there. And back in a division with Matthews, which I know we're going to get into. I think it's an interesting decision. I'm looking forward to hearing what you think about this move.
Yeah, so I mean, my thoughts are I always love when a GM is aggressive, and maybe thinks outside the box. So I can't knock it from the angle of, well, why would you take a chance on Laine when he was basically essentially given away? Like the fact that Columbus was adding a second-round pick to get this guy off their team, and I get it, he was asking for a trade, so their hands were definitely tied. But the fact that, I don't know what kind of other offers they had, but seemingly not many other teams, and maybe not any other team, was willing to take on the full contract. It was probably, as you kind of called out, no one else was willing to take on the full contract. Columbus probably had a heavy preference on not retaining. So the Canadiens offer, when they said, yeah, sure, we'll take on the full salary, but we need something more. Seems like Columbus was definitely very content to add in that second round pick to make the trade happen. So not to say that means it can't work out for the Canadiens, but kind of what I was starting with, I do like the aggressive approach, because we've heard Ken Hughes over the summer talk about how they need to get over the hump. They need to take that next leap or whatever. They can't finish 8th in the division again. And they have already committed to 3 of their young core forwards, Slafkovsky, Suzuki, and Caulfield, which, depending on your perspective, you can say, well, great value on the contracts. I love it. Good deals, happy with that. But the devil's advocate, and maybe the Leaf fan, would say, well, sure, you got good contracts on guys that really haven't produced enough to make you anything more than the 8th place team in the Atlantic the past 3 years. I know Slafkovsky obviously is just finished his second year or first full year even. So I get it. Like, maybe it's not that time to press the panic button on that core. But now you basically, to me, Ken Hughes is saying, yeah, I'm not so sure if those guys are enough. Right. We need something else. We need an extra offensive boost. We need more flash, more offensive upside capability. So great. But you brought in a guy that you could argue, maybe 30 other teams, 31 because of Columbus, weren't going to touch. So, I mean, I like being aggressive. I'm good with that. I'm just not sure I get this. It feels a little bit reactionary to maybe something that didn't happen in terms of their off-season plan. Did they have some other targets? Because Habs fans have been saying for a while that one thing they love about Ken Hughes is how patient he's becoming, or has been, with the rebuild. It's like they're not trying to jumpstart everything. It's they believe in these young forwards that they've signed. They love their prospect pool, which I get that optimism. It is very good prospect pool. Top 3 for sure in the league. But this move tells me that Ken Hughes is not maybe as content or confident with what they've got currently, not as confident as some Hab fans are. And that's what kind of motivated this move.
Yeah, I have two thoughts from what you just said. Firstly, I think aggressive GMs could be the theme of our evening tonight. We're going to get into another situation where we have an aggressive GM that's really stirring the pot. But
great
also,
segue, guys.
Yeah. I think they have noticed, despite their optimism around their current group and their prospect group, that they're lacking goal scoring. And Laine is a goal scoring specialist when he's at his best. So they had the cap room. Let's see what he can do on the ice. I'm sure you saw at the press conference or the interview that he took on his webcam, sort of reminiscent of the draft interview that he took back in the day.
That kid, not short on confidence. Not short on confidence at all.
He's short on technology, though, I think.
What was going on there?
No, he doesn't seem like a materialistic guy. Very different from some of the Leafs that we've collected. He comes in with, like, I don't even know, was it his iPhone? It was a really weird setting that he was in. He had, like, some plants behind him. It looked like he was in the backyard. And then he had the
it felt like he was not prepared to take that call.
Not at all. Not at all. Yeah. Like when he took the call from his bed, I think, when he was drafted. So I don't know. I don't know. Is this he's just that laid back? Is he kind of out of it? But he called in from Florida and he seemed excited about the move to Montreal. He was wearing a toque. He said that he needs to sort of get ready for the Montreal climate. And I guess my hope for him is that he does notch some great goals. He does sort of notch a good goal scoring season. And I certainly don't hope the Montreal Canadiens are able to climb up the Atlantic, but I hope for him that his career rebounds because there was, he was the number 2 draft pick behind Matthews. They did have that rivalry in early seasons. I don't think it's fair to say the rivalry exists anymore. That's to Jesse.
but will it become reignited? Maybe.
Maybe it will. Will.
Well, I've seen enough on my Twitter timeline, the amount of like highlights of like Laine from his time in Winnipeg scoring there's a game-winning overtime goal against the Maple Leafs. And I'm like, Habs fans are the ultimate historians,
Yeah,
they just love.
Are we kind of?
Well, we don't even have a good history. We don't even have anything good to reflect on. But Habs love to go back to obviously 2021. It was 3-1. Yeah. Oh, look, Leaf fans, here we come because look what Laine did in 2017.
Yeah,
like Habs fans, come back to 2024 just for a minute.
Let's see what you've done the last
2024. Right. Yeah. Right. Like, I get it. No one compares in pretty much all of sports, I would say. Like, in terms of the championships won, we get it. We're all very impressed. But right now, let's get to the here and now and what's going on, what has gone on the last 3 years. Mm-hmm. I get it. It's a rebuild. This is kind of the pain that a lot of teams, including the Maple Leafs, have had to endure to get to maybe where they are now. But what Habs fans, I think they forget that the Maple Leafs, when they were obviously in their tank mode and rebuilding, it didn't take very long for them to become a good team, like a playoff team. Like it was Matthews, Nylander, Marner, their first year right to the playoffs. So you can't say, well, Leaf fans, like, don't you understand how a rebuild works? Yeah, we definitely do. But we also know what you need to see.
We're a little better at it than you guys.
Yeah. I mean, or we just, the ping pong balls landed properly for us at the right time. Like in the right season, we got Austin Matthews. Let's not say that's a huge credit to the organization. We kind of lucked out that way. We got fortunate.
Okay.
But
and they got Slav, right? That was their most.
They got Slavkovsky with the number 1. But for, I don't know, about like 7 or 8 years, they've been picking in the top 5, top 10, at worst top 15. You can't just say this rebuild has only been a 2-3 year thing. No. You've had a lot of early picks. and it hasn't panned out. So
yeah, they're in a tough conference. So
Yeah.
I remember a couple episodes back, we did our predictions for the Eastern Conference standings. And I
Right.
think that you had the Montreal Canadiens dead last.
probably sounds right. Yeah.
So do you think that this Laine acquisition, will that move your needle at all?
Definitely would be more, I wouldn't call it bullish on them, but I could definitely see them now. Like, I think before the Laine move, I would have said, I can't see them finishing higher than 7th. Now, I could probably see if things go right, and maybe if they're not done making moves, like if they are in contention closer to the trade deadline, would they be aggressive again and make a move? I could see them being anywhere from that maybe 6 to 8. Like, I don't know if I'm putting them ahead of Buffalo yet, not putting them ahead of Ottawa, but they've definitely closed the gap.
Okay, so your short answer is yes. You do think this is going to have, a significant impact on their season.
Well, significant,
That's
no.
exciting.
I don't think significant is the word I would use. I think it has the potential to move them up 1 or 2 spots. Potential.
Okay.
Because I think I recognize that with the, all these 3-point games with the overtime and shootout, the Habs could have easily had, 6 to 7 more points last year and finished either 7th in division or 6th. So they might not be that far off from getting out of 8. But yeah, I don't think this becomes like a major leap forward for them because they added Laine. It obviously didn't pan out for Columbus. I don't automatically think he kickstarts something there and they grab a wild card spot. I don't see it.
It's funny because Laine has been in 2 markets prior to Montreal, Winnipeg and Columbus, that aren't awfully inspiring, probably from a player's perspective to play in.
Right.
Actually, Winnipeg.
I'd agree.
Winnipeg, it was earlier days in their franchise that returned. So it's a hockey town.
Yeah, a hockey town, but not probably the most desirable location.
Yeah.
to play in.
Yeah, like I wonder if going to Montreal, where it is a real hockey market, where the media is a bit of a fishbowl, although I heard in podcasts today that Montreal is very effective at insulating its players from that noise. And they do protect their players a little bit better than some other fans that are close to our hearts, some other teams that are close to our hearts. But, maybe being in a market like that where the Bell Center's going off on a Saturday night, where you're getting that Toronto-Montreal rivalry, it might kind of spur something in his little heart.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely, at some point, and obviously not recently, but he always was kind of that big game player, big game moments. Yeah. His first 2 years in Winnipeg, for sure. Even like 2 years ago in Columbus, I mean, he's missed a lot of games because of injury.
Yeah.
But he got like 26 goals. I think it was 2 years ago with Columbus. So it's not like it would be
26 goals. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. It's a far cry from all the claims that he should have been the first overall pick. Obviously, that hasn't been close to panning out. And I don't think it ever will at this point. There's only so many times you can say, well, what if he's in the right environment? Maybe he will be a 40-goal guy. No, he won't.
That's what I'm wondering.
He can be a 30-goal guy.
And he can be a 30-goal guy. Back in the conversation with Matthews, who was his arch nemesis, so to speak, early days, that might bring something out in him that's been dormant for a while.
Could, for sure. For sure. I could totally see it. I think he probably does quite well, especially earlier on, because I think everyone's going to be, there'll be the pressure just because it is Montreal. Yeah. But the expectations might not be that high for him specifically because he's kind of been off the radar, off the map for the last few years. So no one is really expecting him to come in here and just, light the lamp every night. But if he does, I think there's going to be a, obviously that pressure to keep performing will creep up, and that maybe won't work out well for him. But I could see it having a short-term impact. I'm just not completely convinced it was the right move for them to make just because of the player kind of what
'Cause
kind
he
of
was there.
baggage he has. I'm just not sure it's the right fit, but
All right,
time
I'm
will
gonna
tell.
I'm
Sure.
gonna set an over under for you. Goals.
Okay.
35 over under.
Under.
Under. I'm gonna
Don't
take
have
the
to
over.
think about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what would you think his goal total might look like?
Well,
So
so
you're doing
his
some research.
yeah, well, I'm just looking at what his career high was. I know he had 40 one year. Yeah, so he had 44 goals was his career high.
What
His
season?
rookie year, that was his second year in the league.
Okay.
So he went 36 goals in year 1 to 44 to 30 to 28 to I don't even know who the player is anymore, basically.
Remember, he
yeah.
was on Columbus, which a lot of people
Yeah.
don't even know that's a team. Just kidding. But it's, he wasn't in the best of company, potentially. Although,
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I kind of want to see him kind of go off. Like,
So it sounds like you're taking the over. I think that's fair.
I'm taking the over optimistically.
Yeah.
I heard a podcast that said he could be a 50 goal scorer, and so I don't know
Was
if I
that a
put stock
Canadiens
in that.
podcast? Was that a
What's
Canadiens
that?
podcast? A Habs fan podcast?
No, it wasn't a Habs fan podcast.
Oh,
I only
okay.
listen to Leafs podcasts. Come on, and Oilers
Good girl.
podcasts.
That's the way it should be.
But I don't know. Like, I kind of hope that he finds some offensive cylinders and starts firing, and
Well,
we can
yeah.
see that Laine. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, I'm just going to say, I think it's kind of a good point or kind of to get us into the topic in terms of the Leaf Canadiens rivalry obviously needing to get reignited. We talked about Laine's career needing to get reignited, but it's always more fun, even if, Leaf fans and Habs fans would prefer those respective teams to not be performing, to not have success. But there isn't anything better than a Saturday night Leaf Canadiens game when it actually means something to both teams, right? And we haven't seen that in a very long time. Obviously, the playoff series in 2021, which we definitely won't spend much time talking about.
No.
But like last 3 years, we haven't really had any of those meaningful games, meaningful events, matchups between the two. So I'm all for it. I'd like to see it happen because it would be good to kind of have, just that kind of banter back and forth, chirping, trash talking. It would be nice to have that back. It's been too long. And maybe it's a combination of the fact that our biggest rivals outside of like the Bruins and maybe Tampa, Florida now, but the Ottawa, Buffalo, Montreal, like they're not on the radar. They're not relevant. They haven't been for a long time. We need at least one of those teams to get back on the map. And I don't think it's going to be Ottawa anytime soon. So maybe it will be Montreal.
Yeah, no, I'm personally done with the Leafs Bruins rivalry. It's really not working for us. I would like a new rival.
I'm not having fun anymore. I'm not having fun anymore. But to be perfectly honest, Josh, I don't even think of Montreal as a rival. In my lifetime, that rivalry hasn't really been there. It's been Ottawa and then it's been Boston. I don't recall a time where it was Montreal that we were playing in the first round every season, or we needed to win in the regular season, despite the number of Hockey Night in Canada slots, like the Saturday night games, Montreal, Toronto. Well, because there was that time where
rivalry that I've never lived. I've really never lived it. I don't care. Honestly, we've been winning those games. I'm sort of divested from that rivalry, but
fair.
I hope it comes back because I want to supplant the Montreal-Boston rivalry. I'm out of there. I don't want that anymore. So
because there was obviously a time. Yeah, there was a time where they weren't in the same division, right, for a while, and then they obviously brought all these, whether it was because of geographical location, rivals they wanted to get going, and then they did the realignment, the divisional realignment. But since they basically put the Canadiens back with the Maple Leafs, there hasn't been that time where both teams were competitive.
Yeah.
And we really haven't had those opportunities where it's like, oh man, Leafs Canadiens tomorrow night. We got to win that. Got to get those 2 points. It's like, no, we don't. We're 30 points ahead of them, or in the past, maybe they were ahead of us. It's been way too long. So I'm kind of craving those meaningful matchups, and hopefully we get those soon. And based on what Habs Twitter is saying, it sounds like it's coming a lot sooner than maybe we think. Yep.
On plan, la parade. I don't even know how to say that.
Yeah, I will not attempt any French on the show. That's for sure. I know about 5 words in French.
Hope the best for Laine, but I don't currently think that they are a rival of ours, really. So maybe that will be to come.
No, and I agree. And I think by the definition of rival, you got to be playing competitive, meaningful games.
Point.
Both teams have to be actually striving for a similar outcome, similar goal. If one team is, 2 feet in on their rebuild and kind of at the onset of a rebuild, and the other team has a window of win the cup right now, those games are not going to mean much.
Yeah, I think
so. That's where we've been with the rivalry there, the rivalry.
Yeah. To summarize, I think what you just said, one team is looking to win the cup, one team is looking to make the playoffs. Those are oceans apart to me. Yeah,
for sure. Okay, so I think we've kind of covered most of the angles and thoughts on the Laine to the Canadiens. Obviously, we'll have more to come on that, maybe in a future episode. On to the next topic. So Edmonton Oilers, they had 2 of their RFAs, Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway, signed to an offer sheet by the St. Louis Blues. And I believe it was it yesterday, where the Oilers confirmed they will not match.
Yeah.
My thought was, I was kind of surprised they chose not to match on both players.
Yeah.
Especially because there was some movement there where, they traded Cody Ceci, former all-time Maple Leaf great.
$3.5 million Cody Ceci AAV.
Crazy. Yeah.
Good work, Cody. Good work.
It's a tough economy for everyone out there, even the hockey players, clearly. I don't know how they get by. No.
I think you're saying the opposite. He's in the luxury economy. Somehow, despite his performance, he was benched most of the Stanley Cup Finals. Yeah,
he missed a couple games, but it's just
looking hot out there.
No, it's just crazy that a player like him is able to make that kind of coin.
No, for sure.
At least has up until now. So I thought when they let go Ceci, that opened up a spot to maybe bring Broberg back, but clearly it was just all about clearing more cap room. And I get why Edmonton's doing it. They obviously know that they're in their window right now. I believe even before they lost both those guys, they were the oldest team in the NHL, which I think most people would be surprised by. Yeah. Obviously, with the McDavid's, Draisaitl's, you figure they're probably one of the more younger teams, but they've obviously... Yeah, they've added vets, right? They've added guys like Matthias Ekholm, Corey Perry, Adam Henrique. So, So right now, their current roster, I believe, I think it is the oldest or second oldest, but let's go with oldest for now because I recall hearing that. So they definitely recognize that their window to win is now. We obviously know the uncertainty around Draisaitl, McDavid, even Evan Bouchard. Their contract status, will they get extensions? So they're obviously saying we've got to do it this year. We need to have some cap room if we want to make an aggressive move at the trade deadline.
Totally.
So I do get the move, but I did think they would have brought back at least one guy.
Who do you think they would have brought back?
I thought Holloway. I thought Holloway would have been the guy just because I don't think they could have justified the money that was obviously given to Broberg. He's a good, promising young D-man, but I don't know if he'll ever be worth 4.5.
No kidding.
And especially at this point in his career, he's not.
That's huge number for a guy coming off his ACL. He played a few playoff games last year. He mostly played in the NHL, AHL last season.
Yeah.
But that's, he was, I think, an 8th overall pick back in
Something around there. Something around there.
It was 7, 8, or 9.
Yeah.
So, he has a very high ceiling.
Highly regarded prospect. Yep.
Yeah. But that $4.5 million blew me away because when I looked into what Edmonton was considering, putting out there, it was like 1.5 AAV.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a huge payday for Broberg. Good for him.
Yeah. So if any Edmonton Oiler fan, and I know some are, if you're upset with these guys for agreeing to accept that offer sheet, are you kidding me?
You can't be. This is just free market.
Yeah.
Friggin' this is free market economics.
Yeah. You have to sign that.
For sure. And Holloway, he 2.2 mil, also a significant raise over what I was looking at. Edmonton was thinking of offering him. Yeah. He's also a strong prospect. I think he was 14th overall. So another guy that has a very high ceiling. If this happened to the Leafs, by the way, Josh, I would be devastated.
You mean if someone offered Nick Robertson 4.5?
Wait, we didn't take Nick in the first round, though.
No, he was round 2 pick. Round 2 pick.
Second round?
Yeah.
No, if they took Easton Cowan and they took Fraser Minton or they took Ben Danford, I'd be mad. I'd be really mad. That's our future. So what I wanted to talk about with you is whether you think that Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl are looking at this, thinking their future is a little bit more patchy, and saying, is this a team that we want to stick with for the longer haul?
I love where you're going.
Some major holes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, totally dig where you're going there because I've had the exact same thought where it's I get it. They probably understand why the front office did not match because it does kind of keep that available room under the cap when they want to make that big push. But if you're McDavid and Draisaitl and Evan Bouchard and you know that you want to sign a long-term deal because most players would probably prefer that, commitment, that certainty, security, and all that. So if they want to sign a long-term deal, and when they come up for free agency, obviously Draisaitl and Bouchard, it's next year. For those guys, they're probably going to look at it okay, cool. If we win the cup, then I get why we did it, or why we did match. But if they don't win, then you're looking at it, Corey Perry, Adam Henrique, Matthias Ekholm aren't going to be part of what sells McDavid and Draisaitl on extending in Edmonton. Edmonton right now, obviously not that any Leaf fan should be critical, but Edmonton doesn't have a good prospect pool, especially now that they've lost 2 of their top guys, right?
Totally.
So, and they don't have a first-round pick next year. Obviously something that Leafs fans can relate to, not having first-round picks.
We have a first-round pick next year, luckily. We do.
Yeah, next year, and then the year after, we do not.
Recently.
Yeah. Or is it, I think 2025 we don't have.
Why? Why don't we?
I don't know. One more of those do. Yeah, we don't have a first-round pick in 2025. Oh. Our draft next year is disgusting. We don't have a pick in round 1, 3, or 4. There is no point for the Leafs to even show up for the draft next year.
Okay, I have something to say. I wanted to add this to the Holloway and Broberg discussion because as compensation for those 2 guys, Broberg, they got a second-round pick. Holloway, they got a third-round pick. I read this interesting stat today that said the conversion rate from third-round picks to playing 100 NHL games, how many third-round picks play 100 NHL games? What do you think the percentage is?
Percentage? Play over 100 games?
Yeah.
Got to be below 5%.
13%.
Okay. 13.
And second round?
That's definitely higher. Second round, again, over 100 games?
Yeah.
20%?
17%.
Okay, so I highballed that one. I came in too low on the other one.
But isn't that interesting? Like,
yeah, it's crazy.
Basically, you need first-round picks. If you want to have
it's an absolute dart throw. Like, the whole draft is a dart throw. But, yeah, once you get out of the first round, right.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Isn't that an interesting stat? Which goes to show that the way we've been really fast and loose with trading our first-round picks, that is not good for the future of our team. And we've been very short-sighted.
But come on, we got Nick Foligno and Jake McCabe. No?
Well, no? Yeah, Jake McCabe I'm happy with. Nick Foligno.
Yeah, that didn't work out too well.
That didn't work out too well. Very happy with that one.
No, I mean, it was a fun 2 games that he played well. And then we were all excited, and then he got hurt, and then he came back, got hurt again. Yeah. No, so I mean, anyway, exactly to your point, and good call out in terms of those likelihoods of seeing NHL action in those rounds. Yeah. Edmonton is in a tough spot, and I also look at their blue line now. It was bad last year. It is disgustingly bad now. Like, you just took CC. And I think at least with Broberg, I know he wasn't a regular for them last year, but at least going into this year, if they had Broberg, I'd feel that was something that you could be optimistic or encouraged about. Now you're Ekholm and Evan Bouchard. You guys got to play 28 minutes a night. Ooh. And then you go Darnell Nurse. They got that guy they got from the CC deal, Ty Emberson, I think his name is, more of a defensive guy.
Yeah,
but,
I don't know.
Like, it's bad. It's really bad.
Yikes.
Brett Kulak and Josh Brown, like, I don't know. Okay. Like, I know they're probably still the odds-on favorite to win the cup, but with that D, it ain't happening.
I mean, I guess they were before all this, so maybe. But, I mean, I don't think we can say their D was that bad, like, if they made the cup final. I think we might be over-exaggerating.
It played well. No, fair. It played well, but personnel-wise, not good. So, I don't know. Obviously, you got to give them credit. I think they definitely overachieved. They bought in to how the coach wanted to play. But, yeah, I wouldn't be confident even with that same D they had in the cup final. If they ran that D back, I'd be like, there's no way they advance past 3 rounds again with that D. Like, I give them credit. I just don't think you could do it again with that D and that goaltending.
No, like they're very much like a Leafs build. The team is built sort of very top heavy with a little bit of lacking in the back and goaltending. But they
exactly the same, really well. Except for the McDavid thing. Except for the McDavid thing. That's the only difference.
I don't know. I like the Draisaitl thing too.
No, for sure. But I'm just kind of making fun of like a lot of Leaf fans that kind of like say, well, yeah, Edmonton got to the cup final, kind of built the same way we are. Why is everyone saying we've got to trade Mitch? We've got to trade Tavares. Like, clearly we can do it if Edmonton can. It's like, well, yeah, if you find me a guy who plays like McDavid in the postseason, sure. Then, we can. Yeah. Big difference.
Did we ever hear if Draisaitl was injured this postseason?
Yeah, he was. I forget what they confirmed.
Really came out and diagnosed him.
No, I think they said it might have been like a rib thing, like a fractured rib or something. Okay. Yeah, he had something pretty serious that he was dealing with. So I think it was kind of pretty justifiable why he wasn't himself for the cup final. But
I think it's funny that they've been tossing around that Evander Kane might need hernia surgery.
Yeah. LTIR.
I feel like that was a play in case he has to go to the bye-bye LTIR place.
Oh, you think it's a Robida Island play?
Well, I think it's a hedging for a Robida Island play. Like,
could be.
How long do you need to diagnose a hernia surgery? We're closing in on start of the regular season. Like, I think throwing that out there in the media is like a good way to be, sorry,
totally.
Like, you can't play.
Well, it's interesting because I don't know where they're at right now, but I remember seeing something like a couple weeks ago where Evander Kane, Evander Kane and his agent were basically saying like, yeah, we don't think he'll need to be on LTIR. We think he'll be ready to go. And then obviously Edmonton denied that. So I don't know where they're at right now. I think they've kind of moved more to being aligned on the fact that he will need to be on LTIR, but I don't know for how long. So yeah, we'll have to see how that plays out.
I think that's a PR play from the Canes camp to sort of, if this is a possibility that I'm packing up for Robida Island, I want something out there saying I was potentially injured.
Could very well be. Yep. Could very well be.
Like, he's not ready to pack up his entire career. But
no, and he probably wouldn't mind being dealt. He wouldn't mind being dealt. I think there's probably that angle too, where it's like, okay, you want to LTIR me? Like, okay, the hell with you guys. Trade me.
Yeah, like the guy hasn't performed to his contract, but he's not awful. It's just Edmonton's been in a really tight cap position. And I wonder if Oilers players are looking at Stan Bowman and being like, come on, man. Like, this was not a strong first summer for you.
Yeah. I've heard some of that talk. I've heard a lot of that talk.
Anyway, the offer sheet situation, very exciting. I hope we see more of it in the NHL. This should happen a lot more.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I don't know why it does not. Like, I don't know if it's like the old boys club.
That's
It's the boys club. I hate that.
If you had girl GMs in there, this would happen all the
time. Yeah, for sure. Did you
see Doug Armstrong's comment about...
I did.
Oh my God. Can you bring it up verbatim? Because it was so good.
You're talking about how he kind of like broke down why they did it. And I think he was asked about
he basically said somebody accused him that he wouldn't have offer sheeted the Edmonton Oilers if Kenny Holland...
If it was Ken Holland, right.
GM.
Yeah.
And he said, look...
No.
If that's the code among GMs, I never got that email. I
think he even said if his mom was the GM, he would have still done it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have done this.
I definitely love the candor.
So go Doug Armstrong. I love that attitude. Let's
100%.
manifest that in Toronto. Let's offer sheet the shit out of teams. This is
I don't think the Leafs can.
This is a Stanley Cup club. Okay.
Yeah, you would think it's a competition to win the trophy, right? Like, you would think that's what we're trying to do here if we're NHL GMs. But it seems like, oh, God, if I do that to the Minnesota Wild, they're going to do it to me next year. For the Leafs, like, obviously we love them to do it. And hypothetically, theoretically, it would be amazing. They can't do it because they just don't have
money. We can't do it.
Well, we don't have the draft capital.
Somebody should do it to us for Nick Robertson. Because Nick Robertson would probably be worth like 1 million, 1.4 million. And in that case, if you look at what compensation comes from a guy that's offer sheeted at 1.4, it's zilch. So
probably a 4th round pick or something, maybe?
No, it's nothing. It's nothing.
Nothing at all.
No, the second, there's nothing. I can show you the
screenshot.
Okay. But you know what's interesting?
So that really, so that really tells you a lot about what other teams think about him.
Totally, it does.
And that's probably why he hasn't been moved yet. Because like, well, no one's considering offer sheeting him, and no one's considering giving any sort of premium asset for him.
But Josh, remember that the last offer sheet that went through for the bully team, the offer sheeting team, was in 2021. This doesn't happen a lot.
It's been a while.
I think that a team probably doesn't. It's not normal to ruffle another team's feathers with these offer sheets.
Well, I also think the flat cap had a lot to do with that too. I think the economic uncertainty, the cap remaining flat through the pandemic and even coming out of it, I think there was a lot of hesitation for teams to do that. Maybe now
with the cap going up.
Right. I think they were even saying that with Broberg specifically, and maybe even Holloway as well, that there were 2 other teams that had prepared an offer sheet on them.
You're right.
So this might be kind of a trend we begin to see, and that would be great because I think it makes it very exciting, and it keeps GMs on your toes.
Yeah.
And the NHLPA loves this, right? Because you've got players right now that are RFAs,
arbitration, which I don't think they like.
It avoids that, and it avoids the uncertainty for these young players on where they're going to play, when they're going to get paid, because you're basically telling the GM of that team that owns their rights, hey, figure it out. If you want to give him a, if you're trying to shortchange him, you're trying to get him
Good
on
point.
a cheap
That's a great
contract.
Yeah.
Someone else is going to come in and steal him off your hands. So pay the guy what he deserves to make. Yeah. Like, I mean, we were talking about Broberg being offered 1.5. Yeah, that might be his value right now. But give him a 4 or 5 year deal if you like the guy, and give him 2.5. And then maybe he signs that contract. I don't know.
I think you're right. Like, if I'm a guy that's coming off my entry-level contract, going into my RFA, and I'm looking at an offer, I'm sort of in talks with with my current team, I might be like getting my agent to make calls to other GMs around the league and be like, "What you got for me? What you got for me?"
Totally. I mean, it took Broberg. I'm guessing it took Broberg no more than 5 minutes once his agent said, "Hey, I've got this from the Blues. It's 4.5. You want it? Yeah, sure." Like, and I get it. There should be no loyalty if you're sitting in the middle of August without a contract on a team that, as we talked about, does not have a great blue line right now. So if you like the player, pay him. But if you don't, you're obviously going to be very susceptible. Yeah.
I think that we're seeing that the NHL is becoming a little bit more, like, teams, GMs are becoming a little bit more ruthless. Like what's happened with, I don't know, if we look internally, Tavares getting stripped of the C, that's not, a gentleman's move. The offer sheet's not necessarily a gentleman's move. Stamkos moving to Nashville, that's not a gentleman's move. Like, I think it's becoming more free market hockey.
Need more of it.
I'm here for it. Let's go. Let's play to win.
Yeah, and for sure.
I don't care about a GM's relationship with another GM. Like, come on. This is not.
Yeah, well, and even like they asked Stan Bowman about it. He did not. I mean, who knows what he said in front of the camera? Maybe he wasn't being truthful, but he definitely didn't seem like a guy who felt this was like a personal attack on him, and he wasn't like, like, I can't believe the Blues would dare do this to us. Like, obviously it was in front of the camera, so again, who knows? Maybe behind the curtain, he's like, F that guy. I'm going to go and offer sheet the next Blue free agent. I don't know. But it seemed like he got it. He knows why it happened.
Did you see that the Blues threw in another 3rd round pick for free?
Yeah, I saw that. That was kind of weird. I don't think anyone's really talking enough about it, but it was like, was that the apology?
Either.
Like, so was that the apology?
That's the apology, I think. I listened to a podcast today. They're like, you need to apologize. Don't offer guys like career.
Yeah, it was so weird.
Give him a dinner.
That was very
Send
weird.
him a Boston Pizza gift card. Like,
seriously,
this 3rd round pick is sort of weird.
Yeah, I found that very weird. And to your point, no one was talking about it. It was like, oh yeah, that's just a hockey deal. No, it's not.
A hockey
That's
deal.
not a hockey deal.
No.
That's hey, you know what? I get it. Sorry about it. Or maybe
we screwed you over.
Or maybe there was some under the table kind of thing with like Armstrong and Bowman. Well, like Bowman said, we won't match, but we might unless you give us something more.
I don't think
it could be that too. You would hope not.
Do you think they could have matched? They could have maybe matched Holloway.
Yeah, exactly. They might have said, we will match on Holloway, but, we're kind of okay with giving them up, but give us more motivation to just leave it.
So they want that 3rd round pick, that second 3rd round pick, that 13% gamble that a guy is going to play more than 100 NHL games so much.
Well, I think
willing to like pay up.
I think it would probably be more about having that ammunition to acquire someone to trade deadline, right? Because if you're a team who's like, you've got an expiring contract, like, a 3rd round pick is like found money. Okay, this guy's going to walk out the door anyways.
Yeah,
Edmonton's going to give us a 2nd and a 3rd for our rental, or a guy who will be a rental for them.
Okay, so
anyways, let's get into Leaf topics.
I was going to, I guess we have some Leaf topics to discuss, but can we just talk really quickly, do you think that McDavid and Draisaitl are still thinking the same way that they were about re-signing prior to this shakeup of their prospect pool. I guess we already talked about it, but I just want to talk about whether you think there's a better chance that we get McDavid out of this.
I would think, and not maybe because of what McDavid is thinking about after those transactions, but I just think that pissed about this.
You
think, eh?
Oh yeah.
Are you hearing that from your inside sources? Is that okay?
No,
okay.
But if I'm a team-minded guy and I want to stick with it for the long haul, I'm pissed. I'm pissed as a fan of the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from, because if he was definitely, obviously, after their good run in the playoffs, postseason, he may have been like, okay, I could see myself hanging around in Edmonton, but, well, you just traded two of our top young guys, and, I'm not really seeing how this thing will look in 4 or 5 years,
Yeah.
So that's fair. That's fair.
Okay.
For me, I hadn't thought about that, but I would agree with you. I don't think it doesn't help. I don't think it doesn't help. Okay. So one of the things that heard this morning on TSN first up, I don't think we need to spend too much time on this one. We're probably just go kind of back and forth on what we feel or what side we're on here. They were asking the question between Mitch Marner and John Tavares, which pending UFA, big name UFA, is more likely to re-sign? Who would you go with? You have to pick one.
Tavares, easy, 100%. I think Tavares is coming back at a discount.
I do too. And for me, it's not like, well, I think they're both going to re-sign. It's like, I think Tavares, I'd say 75% Tavares re-signs. Yeah. And I'd say less than 10% Mitch Marner resigns. That would kind of be where I'm at.
I like
or
it.
Are you even less? Are you even less on Mitch?
Than 5% for a Marner resigning.
Okay.
I'd go higher than 85% for Tavares resigning. He's too old.
Yeah.
He's established in Toronto. He's from Toronto. His kids are in school. He bought a house. He built a cottage.
I totally think he wants to be extended and stay here. The only reason I'm putting it in maybe 75, the Leafs might, if they lose in the first round again, or let's say, they don't even make the playoffs, it won't be as easy, at a discount, to bring back Tavares. Because then probably Shanahan is gone. For sure. You got to pack your shit. You're gone. I don't think Keith Pelly will be like, okay, so Tree Living, you kind of said you're going to make some moves, try to beef up the blue line, bring maybe a good goalie to give us a better chance to win the playoffs. It didn't pan out. You even brought in a new coach. We're still going to be, we have all this money left over on Sheldon Keefe's contract. And you said we need to get a new coach, and we still lose in the first round. And then you want to still run it back. Yeah, I don't know. So that would be my only reason for leaving that 25% possibility there.
Okay. No, I hear you.
Yeah.
I like that. But I do think that John would take a significant hometown discount.
Agreed.
And I don't think that you could find a player at a better value than a guy like John coming into the next contract that he signs.
Yeah, you definitely know what you're going to get. He's the type of guy who you never have to worry about his commitment, work ethic.
Yep.
I'd be fine with it.
Good at face-offs.
Totally.
Good in the locker room.
Well, according to Leaf fans, clearly not, right?
Well, I think we should talk about this one episode, how the strategy behind who you name A and C is a little funky to me.
It is.
We've talked about this offline. Yeah. So we can table that, but I'm sure he's still the best leader in that room. I don't think something's happened magically in the last 3 months.
No, I agree.
He's taken leadership courses, watching master classes from the Obamas, and he's I'm ready. I'm sure John is still the dude that
for sure. And I hate
motivate.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I hate the narrative that's out there right now. It's okay, Leaf fans are you see, I told you Tavares wasn't a good leader. The Leafs finally realized it, and that's why Poppy's the captain. No, it's because he's the face of the franchise. He's the best player. That's what we were talking about it offline, where it's the NHL has moved. Yeah. oh, you're 22 years old and you've never been a captain, even when you played in the GTHL, AAA hockey, you were never a captain. But yeah, you're our best player, so you're the captain. That seems to be the way it is. Like, not everyone has a Marc Messier available to them to give the C to, and not everyone wants to give it to a third liner or a third pairing D-man who's the old grizzled vet who might be your best leader, but it's all about,
in my mind, sort of.
If you wanted to actually move the needle, and I guess if you believe that kind of captain is necessary, but I think after what we see with, I think McDavid has grown into being a good captain, but he was certainly not a good captain when he got the captaincy.
In the last 2 weeks? In the last 2 weeks?
What?
He's grown into a good captain in the last 2 weeks?
I'm saying McDavid.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Sorry about that.
Yeah, you were thinking Austin Matthews. No, McDavid.
Yeah.
Like, McDavid got it when he was, 21, 22. And you could argue even now, he's still a more quiet, reserved guy. I think we're seeing a little bit more coming out, more personality, more vocal. But I would still argue against that he's the best leader the Edmonton Oilers have right now.
Me too. I would argue that Austin Matthews is one of the worst leaders that we have.
Could be.
I just think he's not there. He's not, he's not there this summer. The metaphor that I've used is that this is like a major company giving a hotshot intern the CEO position. Like, that just doesn't happen.
No.
Like, you give it to somebody that has the experience, that has the tenure, that has a proven track record of success. Those are the people that are elevated in the corporate world. And now we're seeing these like guys that are just starting out in the NHL. They're wearing the C.
Yeah.
Like, Crosby started the trend of elevating guys early on. Crosby totally deserved it. Crosby and
Jonathan Toews. Jonathan Toews got it very early too.
He totally deserved it too. Even Tavares deserved it, I think. I think he's a guy that is very team-minded.
But I think with Tavares getting it in Long Island, it was also one more of those, well, you are that guy.
To give it to Tavares. This was one of the ones that I was looking at.
That's good. I can't remember
it.
I probably like, if you bring up the name or any of us do, I'd be like, I wouldn't have guessed that in a million years, because the Islanders were probably obviously very bad heading into Tavares' first couple years. That's why they were able to get him. So it probably was not a big name guy, I'm guessing.
Yeah. No, But anyway, I do think that this trend of giving it to the young hotshots to face the franchise is very much a marketing PR play. And I don't know if, like, why did we, as the Leafs, who have an endless franchise that's going to exist, like, I'm glad we've shaken the pot here, but I still don't think Matthews is our best leader. Like, look at the guy. He's not.
No. And we might not have a guy who ever, like, some fans say it should be Riley, but I'm not sure there's anyone on this team who if they would have given the captaincy to, it'd be like, oh yeah, great choice. Like, how could I have not thought about that? That is the captain.
Still a great leader.
He's probably the best that we have.
Probably.
I mean, now you could argue maybe guys like Chris Tanev, McCabe, maybe, but he only has one more year left. Who knows what's happening there? So you wouldn't consider
he's too
it.
Expensive. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah.
It's an interesting conversation, though.
Yeah. So should we try to do quickly the Leafs depth chart, maybe going into training camp with the big re-signing of Alex Steeves to a 2-way contract? I mean, we said earlier, not much Leaf news, but we did get that piece at least. We got that.
When I read your email, I was like, Alex Steen?
We brought him back?
Alex Steeves.
Well, he's actually the assistant GM in St. Louis now.
Yeah, that's right. No, he's had a huge... He was probably involved in those offer sheets. Good for him.
Probably. So all I kind of have here is just obviously on the left here, basic depth chart based on guys that are signed to NHL contracts, forward D and goalies. So really no surprises there. Don't worry too much about the lines for now. But I guess more what needs to be talked about is, with Alex Steeves signing here, these are probably your next up. There's no Alex Nylander on here because he's, of course, assigned to the AHL deal, but we can probably add him in here for the conversation. But these are kind of your, I guess, bubble forward options that, probably Cow and Minton would be the front runners to maybe take a job from one of these guys that have obviously mainstays kind of carry over from past year. And then on D, I kind of like where our depth is shaking out. I mean, not that any of these guys are a huge threat to take an NHL job, but I think there is some decent names out there. Cade Weber, Philip Myers, Rafai got into some games with the Maple Leafs last year. Matanen, Nicholas Matanen is a guy they're taking a chance at that they actually had drafted a long time ago. Really big guy, right shot. So I kind of like what's going on here. And then you got old friend Matt Murray as the third goalie there at the bottom. So
old friend.
Yeah, I love the depth. I mean, it's obviously not where you'd ideally like it to be if you view yourself as a cup contender, but it's workable. It's workable for the first time in a long time. For me, anyways.
Yeah, I agree. I almost wish we didn't have as much depth and we had more like front-loaded Leafs team. You know what I mean? Like we had. It's great though when if we're facing injuries, we're facing cap issues. If we make some major moves, excellent.
Because you can definitely circle these bottom six forwards here and be like, that ain't going to get it done. No. That's not getting you even past round 2 probably. Even though you've upgraded your D. So I obviously like what's going on with the D. And maybe that's enough to get you to round 2. But this right here, those bottom 6 forwards, that's going to crush you. So that's where I feel the outstanding work remains for Tree Living. And I think he'd probably be the first guy to say that that's what he's prioritizing for now.
Do you think Steves is going to make the team for opening night?
No.
Me neither.
No. I mean, I think he's going to be in competition. It's probably going to be a battle. He might be in that group between, I don't know, forward number 13 and 16 in the pecking order. Yeah. So obviously one injury, him having a crazy impressive camp, it might kind of shift the conversation. But I think for now, it's probably, you're maybe the first or second call up is probably what the plan is.
Something in my mind tells me that the prospect or the player from the AHL that I think is most likely to make the team for opening night, I think it's going to be Alex Nylander. What do you think? I know we talked about this. You think Fraser, you think Cowan.
Cowan for me, for sure. But no, I can totally see it. I mean, I think obviously we have to wait. I assume they will be signing him to that PTO, and he will be getting an invite to training camp.
Wait, who?
Alex Nylander. Because
we need to sign him to a PTO in order to have him try out for the Leafs?
Yeah, because he's only signed to an AHL contract right now.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought we could pick
So
up
I think
if we chose.
So I think they have him in an NHL training camp. He's either got to be on a 2-way or he's got to have an NHL contract.
Oh, yeah. I would make you a big bet.
Not NHL contract, a PTO. PTO.
I know what you mean. I would make you a huge bet that he gets a PTO for training.
For sure he will.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that was probably part of the conversation because I don't think Alex Nylander would have signed an AHL contract in the beginning of August without some sort of assurance that, hey, take this contract for now, but we will see you in September.
It's like future considerations in a GM conversation.
Totally. The two guys that I like here, I mentioned I like Mantonin, maybe Philip Myers, but at forward, Jacob Quillen and Nikita Grebyankin are guys that I'm looking forward to seeing in training camp.
Cool.
Not that I think they're making the opening night lineup, but guys that I think can offer something. The Quillen guy's a 2-way forward, little bit of some defensive awareness to him, which is something we lack with the forward group. So
Yeah.
I could see these guys like Cowan, Minton, Grebyankin, Quillen, Alex Steves, just making it very difficult for Tree Living to not say, what the hell are we doing with Yarncroke and Camp on this team at over 2 mil?
That's
You have
cool.
guys well under a mil who can do
Yeah.
the exact same thing. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Exciting. There's a lot to look forward to at training camp and coming into the first few weeks regular season. We're gonna see some new dudes out there.
Well, I mean, especially if you're a Leaf fan, there's always something to look forward to. You're always drinking the Kool-Aid, right?
Except for when you get to playoffs, but yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. And then the Kool-Aid turns to something a little bit harsher, like a rum or something, a straight shot of something.
No, rum's like somewhat enjoyable. It turns into like a very bad, cheap whiskey.
Okay.
I don't think
there
I've
are definitely
looked
enough
forward
good
to-
rums out there. Yeah.
I haven't looked forward to a game 5 in Leafs playoff history in 10 years.
Instead of game 5?
I hate anything past game 5 for the Leafs. Yeah, I just don't want to watch. I have to watch by myself.
Because of the predictable outcome?
That's right. No, that's right. And even if it's somewhat like skewing on our side, like we're up 3-1 against friggin' Tampa. Oh, I don't want to watch that. I'm scared. I know. I'm not optimistic in those scenarios.
Well, yeah, I remember that game 5, like that lead up to game 5 against Tampa. I was pretty much at 100% confidence level that the Maple Leafs would not close it out at home. I was like, there's no way.
I bet
There's
$300
no way.
they're going to lose the series.
I remember you saying that. That's crazy.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was a good payout, and it was an even better result.
Yeah, exactly. It was a win-win. A win-win is what we call that one. You can't lose that way. You bet against your team, you're bound to win.
That's right.
All right, perfect. Well, I think that kind of wraps up. I think, we got through all the topics we wanted to discuss. And, it's a good conversation. I think we're obviously picking up in terms of, obviously, the Laine debate. Obviously, we get some more, feedback from what Habs Twitter is expecting. And as we always say, hopefully some more Leaf news, maybe a Hawk and Paw update coming. Maybe.
Yeah. I think that with the news that's happened in the last week, 2 weeks, I think that's just foreboding more news
for sure
before training camp starts. Like, I think that the GMs are back from vacation, like we're getting back into work mode here. So I'm excited for next week to see what we're going to talk about, what we're going to be able to talk about next week. And NHL feels close. Like, NHL season feels close. What are we at? Like,
it is.
40.
Well, we're less than a month away from training camp. Less than a month away from training camp.
Yeah,
so it's around the corner. It's around the corner, you could say.
It came from soon enough. The Blue Jays are just sucking it up. I have nothing to watch right now. So.
And unless you got a MLB team that's doing well, or you're a CFL fan. I mean, obviously we got the NFL coming up. I'm a big NFL guy, so I'm looking forward to that.
Who's your team?
Yeah, I'm a Miami Dolphin fan.
Nice.
No, not that nice. It hasn't been very good.
Just a response. It was like a courteous thing to say.
No, I totally got that. I should have just said, "Oh, thank you." but you can tell that there's a lot of built up hostility towards that team as well.
Sugarcoated hostility.
Don't try and tell me things are going well over there. They are not.
Okay, trust me. I won't.
Yeah. All right, awesome. Well, appreciate the chat as always, Caroline. It was a good time, and we will do it again next week.
Yeah, sounds great. Have a great week, everybody. Thanks, Josh.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, and leave us a comment if you want to see anything different or if you like what you saw. We'd love to hear from you. Have a good one.